My name's Vanessa Smith. I'm the Quality Manager at Guy's Hospital Assisted Conception Unit. I'm a trained clinical scientist with state registration, and my role here is partly in the lab, but also I spend a lot of time dealing with compliance and regulation around the treatments that we offer here, and also the options for patients when they have surplus embryos. When patients come through the unit, it's obviously a very emotional time for most of them. None of us would consider having IVF treatment as the way of conceiving your children. So therefore, when you create embryos, it's very, very difficult to make decisions relating to what you'd like to happen to them. Many of the patients have lots of questions with regards to what will happen to these embryos and how they'll be treated by the research team. So we spend a lot of time discussing this. Patients often feel that they don't want to discard any embryos or sperm or eggs that they produce. They want to make sure it has some worth. And one of the ways of doing this is by donating. Now, when you're working in an IVF clinic that's training people all the time, obviously one option is for these samples to be used for training to help our staff learn how to work well in the lab. If people decide to donate embryos to research, this is a whole different scenario. Most importantly, the potential of these embryos to help us decide how to do better treatments, to look at results, and to see how different qualities of embryos impact on how they develop later on is all really useful stuff when we're trying to plan future treatments. People think about embryos in lots of different ways. Some people look at embryos as just a bunch of cells that may go on to create a pregnancy, but others may look at them as human life, straight from the moment they're created. That then brings up different questions. Firstly, if it's just a bunch of cells, it's okay for it to be used for research. It's an easier process. However, if you look at these embryos as something that could potentially be a human, a brother or sister for a child that you've already got, it becomes much more complicated. That's one of the main reasons people decide not to donate. Well, that's what we're told in the unit. Not all patients feel that donating their embryos to research is a good idea. It seems to be particularly difficult for those patients that have had a successful treatment, and therefore any frozen embryos may feel like a brother or sister to a child they've already created, because they've already seen the potential of those embryos. Other people feel it's really difficult to donate them because they don't want to give away their last chance of having a genetically related child. And other people are very concerned about what we will actually do with those embryos. Will we create babies in the lab that they keep and they never know about? Will they be treated in a respectful way? All of these questions are discussed very, very carefully. We allow our patients to lead on what they feel is important and how they want to discuss it. We also offer counselling to talk about loss and grief, which some people feel when they've come to the end of their IVF journey. Here at Guy's, we're in a really lucky position that we do have a research team on site. So it's very straightforward for us to move embryos from clinical areas into research areas. Now, when we store embryos, they're stored at -193 degrees in liquid nitrogen. They're kept stable. They can be stored indefinitely as long as we look after the storage facility and make sure there's no changes in temperature. So when it comes to moving embryos from a clinical area to a research area, what we do is we obviously double check all the consent forms. We do everything with a witness. No one touches embryos alone. We need to make sure that everything matches. And then we just move them into a different area of our storage room where we have all the research embryos. The reason we move them, the location, is because we want to make sure that anything that's clinical is kept really safe and we know its purpose. And in the same way, anything that's destined for research is kept in its own space as well. Here at Guy's, our research team and our clinical team are very closely linked. The research team sometimes work actually in the clinical setting and vice versa. Therefore, the communication is really clear, really good. We're kept very up to date about what projects are going on, and so everybody learns from the ground up. Communication and discussions about particular patients is also really, really important to make sure we fulfill the wishes of the patient during their donation. Some patients may decide there's particular projects that they don't want to be involved in, and of course that's absolutely fine. And the fact that our clinical and our research team communicate so well ensures that their wishes are carried out.